The Forgotten Film Reel. A job among legends. In 1992, Daniel Harper landed a job most Disney fans would dream of, film archivist at Walt Disney Studios. His work involved restoring, cataloging, and digitizing old films, ensuring that classic animations would be preserved for future generations. At first, it was magical. Daniel worked with original reels of legendary films, Snow White, Fantasia, Pinocchio. He was touching history. But over time, the job became routine. Most of his days were spent handling the same film, stored in dusty metal canisters, carefully documenting every frame. There was rarely anything surprising. That changed one afternoon when he was assigned to clean out an old storage room that hadn't been touched in decades. The discovery: the room was a mess. Stacks of old film canisters were piled haphazardly, some rusted, others coated in thick layers of dust. The air smelled of decayed celluloid. As Daniel sorted through the reels, one caught his attention: a small, unlabeled metal canister wedged between two rotting wooden crates. Unlike the others, its surface was stained with what looked like dried ink. Brushing away the dust, he saw a faded, handwritten title: Mickey's Endless Parade, 1935. 1935, that was Disney's golden age, yet he had never heard of this title. He checked the studio's archives. No mention of the film. He searched internal records. Nothing. No documentation, no record of its existence. That was impossible. Curiosity burned in him. He had to watch it. The parade begins. That night, Daniel brought the reel to one of the studio's private screening rooms, a small, dimly lit theater used for reviewing old footage. Carefully, he loaded the film into the projector, adjusted the focus, and pressed play. The screen flickered to life with the grainy black and white aesthetic of early Disney films. Then Mickey Mouse appeared. A normal cartoon, at first. Mickey stood in the center, grinning ear to ear, twirling a marching baton in his gloved hand. Behind him, a parade of familiar characters followed: Donald Duck, Goofy, Minnie Mouse, Pluto, Clarabelle Cow. They marched in perfect unison, their faces bright with cheerful smiles, waving to an invisible audience. A lively marching band tune played in the background, upbeat and infectious. At first, it seemed like any other Mickey short, but something felt off. Small things that didn't feel right. After 5 minutes, Daniel started noticing subtle oddities. Mickey never blinked. Donald's smile looked unnaturally stiff, as if painted on. Goofy's mouth stretched just a little too wide. The background was completely empty, no crowds, no signs of life, and the camera never moved. No close-ups, no cutaways, just one unchanging, endless shot. Still, Daniel convinced himself it was just an unfinished animation test. Then the film changed. The slow descent into horror. The parade keeps going and going. By the 10-minute mark, unease crept in. The characters were still marching, but now their movements were slightly off-sync, as if the animation was breaking down. Donald looked thinner, almost skeletal. Goofy's grin had frozen into something unnatural. Minnie's eyes, dark, lifeless, empty. The music had slowed down just slightly, but enough to sound unsettling. Daniel glanced at the film reel spinning in the projector. By now, the film should have run out, but it didn't. It just kept playing. Then the screen flickered violently. For a split second, something else appeared. A long, dark hallway. No Mickey, no parade, just a shadowy figure standing at the far end, facing away from the camera. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. Daniel's stomach twisted. What the hell was that? He rewound the reel. The hallway scene was gone. The nightmare unfolds. Mickey's grin had vanished, his eyes completely black. Two tiny white dots floated in the darkness where his pupils should have been. Behind him, the parade had changed. Donald's beak was caving inward. Goofy's arms were too long, stretching unnaturally. Minnie's dress was dripping ink. The music had slowed into a deep, distorted hum. And then a voice whispered through the speakers: "The road never ends. Everyone must follow. Keep walking." Daniel lunged for the power cord and yanked it out. The screen went black. Silence. Then a slow, rhythmic footstep sound, not from the projector, from behind him. Daniel froze. He turned around. The room was empty, but on the floor, a dark ink stain was spreading, and in the center of that ink, two tiny, glowing white dots, watching, waiting. The parade never. The next morning, Daniel returned to destroy the film, but when he searched for the reel, It was gone. No records, no documentation. It was as if the film had never existed. And yet, studio employees working late at night sometimes hear footsteps in the empty hallways. And if you ever turn off your TV late at night, just before the screen goes completely dark, for a split second you might see them. Two tiny white dots, watching, waiting. Keep walking.